Okay, well, welcome everybody. Oh, there's my hair.
Hi there.
I already told the other stories. So we're going to get right into it. We're so happy to have Carl Bowker, winemaker, owner of Caliza Winery. And I'll just tell a quick story because I know Mahir will relate to this. So we really got into the Caliza. We were up there together. Mahir and I are friends with Raj Karnik, one of the admins, and we probably unwisely, after being at Della's and having a couple of rounds of drinks, we go, "Hey, let's go over to Le Petit Canet and hang out," And I don't even know what the first bottle of wine we ordered was. I'm trying to remember his name right now. We ordered something. We were like, okay, that's okay. And then Alex at Le Petit Canet goes, "Hey, you should try this." And he holds up a bottle of 2019 Caliza Syrah Reserve, which Carl got there. He's got the 2020, and then me here, Raj, my wife, we were all like, "Whoa, this is really good."
Incredible.
So we already had one bottle of wine between a few of us, and then we drank two of those. Unwisely, we all paid the price the next day, and we're moving a little slow. That's not the fault of the wine, Carl. We had preloaded with too many other things. But anyways, it was extraordinary. I came home, I called the wine Caliza, and I ordered some bottles because I just had to have that. Yeah. But anyways, that was really how I kind of really got caught up in what Carl's doing. And so we're really happy to have him on here tonight. And let's get right into it and start to hear Carl's journey. Jason?
Thank you, Mike. Welcome, Carl. Welcome, everybody, this evening. I will be transparent. We often have smaller producers on here that we haven't had the opportunity to try. Not the case tonight. I'm admittedly a big fan of your wines, Carl. I am drinking a 2020 Syrah this evening and enjoying it. So the way that the conversation will go is that we'll kind of start off with an easy rapid fire, get to know you, kind of some personal questions, a little bit of your history, and then we'll move into the business and the winery if that works for you.
Perfect.
All righty. So I know you grew up in Hawaii, right?
I did, yes. I was born and raised there.
And how old were you when you moved to the mainland? Come here.
I was 21. I had graduated from the University of Hawaii and with a business degree and a degree in business and a minor in hotel and restaurant management. And I could have stayed in Hawaii and gone into the hotel or the restaurant business, but I really, I love Hawaii. I grew up there. It's home to many extents, although, California has been home for a longer period of my life. But I love Hawaii, but it is a small place, and I was young and I wanted to spread my wings. And so my mom's side of the family is all from California. So I had opportunity to move to California, live with aunts and uncles till I got my feet on the ground, so to speak, and just follow my path in business, which wasn't wine to begin with, but I'm sure that's one of your questions.
So when you moved over to California, did you have anything in mind, or is it just exploring getting out of Hawaii?
Yeah, no. When I was going through high school and college, I was a mover. I worked for a moving and storage company, mostly during the summers, but sometimes on the weekends. And so one way I could get a job in the business community was going into the business I had been working in. So I actually went to work for Beacon's Moving and Storage in Long Beach, California, right out of college, and was a dispatcher, and then found my way into other management roles. I eventually took over the the division that was transporting convention and trade show freight from convention to convention or trade show to trade show all around the country. And that ended up getting me in the convention and trade show business, which I was in for more than 30 years.
So, this probably changed over the years as it does for most. But today, when you find that you have free time, if you ever have free time, what do you like to do in your free time? What are some fun hobbies or pastimes?
Yeah, having grown up in Hawaii, I love the ocean. So I would either go to the ocean or go to something I'd never had when I was growing up, and that was the mountains. And that was one of the things that as a kid, I even loved when I came to California, was going to the mountains. I used to ski. I don't ski anymore, but I just love going to the mountains and being amongst the, the wilderness and the trees and hiking and things of that nature. Or walking on the beach. I love both of those things. Doing things with my wife, Pam, that's kind of what, what I love to do. I don't have a lot of time in the wine business because, tasting rooms are on the weekend and we're making wine all week long, but I do love, and I love traveling, and even if it's just a short period of time to go somewhere, just to get out and recharge.
So I read a lot about your travels through Italy and France and the inspiration that gave you for wine. We'll come back to that, but do you have a targeted destination for your next overseas trip?
We just came back from the Rhone Valley in France in May. We took a group of Caliza customers and club members and fans, and we did an amazing trip through the Rhone Valley. I haven't really settled on where I want to go next, but I'm thinking there's a couple different options, but I'd love to go where Rhone varieties are also produced, like maybe Spain. I love pre-rot wines and Rioja wines, and so maybe someplace like that. But I also like Alsatian wines, and so a different perspective. Alsace might be great. I've never been to Burgundy. I've never been to Bordeaux, so maybe one of those too.
All good choices for sure. Your Rhone Valley trip, where were your stops on that trip?
You mean as far as wineries are concerned, or just we started the group in Lyon, and I opted not to do a river cruise, but a land-based cruise, because I really wanted us to be able to venture out and get to see a lot of things and not be locked into when the river boat was moving from one town to the next. So we took little shuttle buses from the hotel in Lyon for 3 days out to various places, big ones like Gigal and small little ones that, I never knew about before, but we hired this guy named Kelly McAuliffe. He's an American that been living in France for 25 or more years, that I've known for 15 years as our tour guide. He's a sommelier, and he got us into some amazing places again that big places like I say, Gigal and some of the others, but places that I'd never heard about. And I wanted the people on our trip to be able to experience, the names and all the, because we're a small producer at Caliza, that same thing. I wanted our guests to be able to experience some of the small hidden treasures.
Gigal's got amazing.
And then we ventured down to Avignon and spent 5 days in Avignon. It's a huge amount of time in Châteauneuf-du-Pape, Gigondas, Larac. We just tackled as much as we could. I told our tour operator, I said, I really want to do 3 tastings a day. And I really want our people to be able to experience as much. And she goes, no, I think you should keep it to 2. And I kept pushing and pushing and pushing. And the 2 days we actually were trying to see 3 different people. We never made it to the 3rd one because everybody's having such a great time. Then we had 3-hour lunches with wine galore. And then by the time it was ready for the afternoon one, we were like 2 hours late. And the French don't particularly care for that when you're that late. So, but in a couple of cases, there were my friend Kelly's friends, and they brought the wine to us. And so we were able to sit in the hotel courtyard and have those wines nonetheless.
Beautiful. Yeah, I feel like in Paso, we usually try to do 3 a day. And I just got back from an almost identical trip in France, down the Rhone Valley, Hermitage, and stayed in Avignon for 5 days and did that whole area. And when I was planning out, I was the same, trying to book for 3 a day. And everybody I was working with said, you don't want to do 3 a day, you want to do 2 a day.
Right.
You had the exact same experience. So then you concluded Shatnoff Top area or that
Yeah,
region, and then
that's where we concluded. So it was a total of about I think it was 9 nights and 10 days, the trip, and then many of us stayed beyond and did other things.
yeah.
I love Provence, and so we just spent a lot of time just touring Provence and taking in as much wine as we can, but just exploring the culture and the location. It's just gorgeous.
What were some of the highlights of the trip?
Well, I think seeing some of these unknown wineries were really and being able as a wine producer, they really were welcoming. That we just chatted up winemaking and all those geeky things, and I always get inspired by things like that. That I can come back with just one little nugget of something new I can try. It's always inspiration. I've been making this is my 18th harvest now. So you think I know it all, but I every day I learn something new, and every day every harvest we try something new. And so to hear about something somebody else is doing differently, whether it's a different vessel, whether we use concrete and stainless and oak barrels and all that kind of good stuff. But if there's something new somebody's trying, I want to try to experience it too. That's what wine is fun, and wine should be fun, and winemaking should be fun, and so that's what I enjoy. Those are the things. And then the other highlight has to be those 3-hour lunches every day with this wines galore, and everybody had a blast.
Good, awesome. Sounds like a great trip. Will you do a trip like that again for your club?
Yeah, well, definitely do something. I didn't feel like I had enough time to prepare for something for 2024, so I'm shooting for early spring-ish 2025. We'll do something. I'll figure out where we're gonna go.
Wonderful.
But it's a lot of fun. It was the first time I did that. I was really not sure that we would would enough people wanted to travel with us, and lo and behold, we had a waiting list, and we had to expand the group a little bit bigger. And I would have liked to keep it a little bit smaller, but we had club members that are longtime members that say, I got to go. And so we slipped in a few extra.
How big was the group?
It was 20 plus my wife, Pam, and I, and the tour guide and the tour operator. So it was, close to 24 people, basically.
Good size. Okay. So moving on, non-wine for a second. What is your favorite non-wine adult beverage?
I've become a really big whiskey fan, so I don't ask me which ones I like better than the others, because I'm still exploring them. But I like my bourbons, and I like my ryes.
Not so much Scotch.
Scotch, yeah, no, that as well, yes, and I even like the peaty ones, that
Oh, do you?
like, yeah,
Like a Lagavulin or
yeah.
Lot of there's a lot of crossover, in whiskey and wine
Yeah.
have a lot of similarities in flavoring and structure and how they're produced. Interesting.
And as you've probably heard, sorry, Jason, but you've probably heard a lot of people say, it takes a lot of good beer to make good wine or something to that effect. And I really love my beer, but I'm not a guy that likes, big hoppy beers. I just like fresh. Give me a Pilsner or something and refresh me. But I'm not going to drink them all night long. I'll have one refreshing one, then I'll move on to something else.
Do you participate in the Firestone blending?
I have not ever been invited.
Oh, I imagine you'd be really good at that.
Maybe one of these days. Maybe I'll after 18 years I'll come out from from hiding, and they'll invite me. But I had just this week I drank 2 of the Firestone Walker anniversaries beers, that I really enjoyed them.
They might be scared to invite you in.
No, I doubt it. Those guys are amazing.
So Carl, what initially influenced your move into the wine business?
Well, my wife and I, when we first got married, we lived in Mill Valley in Marin County, just north of San Francisco. And we took the opportunity of our proximity to Napa and Sonoma to make that our playground. Basically, when we weren't working, we were both in the convention trade show business, working 6-7 days a week. But when we did have mutual time off, Napa and Sonoma became our playground, and we just started learning about wine. We didn't, either one of us grew up in families that wine was their thing. There might have been a glass of wine or two on my parents' tables, but it's just not something they talked about, and not something that they much cared of, other than just to enjoy a glass. But over time, we really got entrenched in the culture of wine and the food and wine. We love our food, and we love cooking, and we love sharing wine with and talking about wine, and just having friends and family over, and everything was about food and wine. And to this day, most of our vacations are all around wine, wine regions, places we may or may not have gone. So after a number of years of exploring Napa and Sonoma, for the most part, Mendocino and the like, we felt like we wanted to learn about more of the wines of the world, sort of spread our horizons. And so my wife saw a little ad in Wine Spectator about a trip to Tuscany. And so we talked about it, and we signed up to go. The hook was that it was going to be a wine educator from Robert Mondavi. This trip was going to take place, did take place in 2001, but we were delayed in going on the trip because of 9/11. And that's an integral part of the story, because we love the culture of food and wine. We love sharing wine, but then we went on this trip to Italy. There were very few people traveling, and it was all a food and wine related trip. So we had great insight into and access to wine producers, families that have been making wine for several generations. And I was just struck by the passion they had for what they were doing. And at the same time, here 9/11 had happened, and it was like, what the hell is going to happen next? What's going to happen in this world, or to me, or whatever. So maybe I should pursue something I'm passionate about, or I see people being passionate about. So I came back from that trip, and I said to Pam, I said, I've got to explore this. I mean, I owned another business, and I couldn't just stop and just go into the wine business. But I did find a school in Napa, in downtown Napa College, that had a 2-year wine and viticulture program. And fortunately enough, when I got back from that trip in late September, school was starting at the junior college in Napa the next week, and it was just a fate that the timing was right. And I signed up. My office at the time was in Hayward. It was about an hour and a half, 2-hour drive, but I willingly took that drive every afternoon up to Napa just to learn about wine and viticulture. One thing I should tell you about is I was in the moving and storage business, which led me to go into the convention and trade show business, moving freight. Eventually, I owned a plant and floral company for actually 23 years. I was a florist, providing plants and flowers at conventions and trade shows all around the country. I was one of the largest national floral outlets specifically for conventions and trade shows. And I had nurseries in 3 of the Western states. I had a location in the Bay Area, a location in Southern California, and a location in Las Vegas. And at one time, also a location in Nevada, but that didn't last. In Arizona, but that didn't last particularly long. But I had 23 years of growing plants in greenhouses and taking care of them. So when I went to viticulture school, it made a lot of sense to me. I mean, it was typically quite different, because I was growing plants in containers in greenhouses. And here I'm growing plants, permanent crop in the fields, but the physiological things about plants all made sense to me. So
Sure.
that was an easy part.
Well, that makes sense. So I'm fascinated by the 9/11 experience, and I'm so glad that you still decided to take that trip. Um, I'm guessing if you were in Tuscany, you went to Florence.
Yes, for sure. We were headquartered. We spent several days in Florence. Yes.
And I'm just curious because, especially now, post-pandemic, I have a lot of friends in Italy this year. They all said it was packed. did in that time when people weren't traveling as much, was Florence pretty wide open? Did you have much greater access to walk the streets of Florence than
Yeah,
typical?
I mean, there were still, I still remember there being people in, in all the, fountains and courtyards and things of that nature. But
Yeah.
having been back since, I know it was far less people then. So yeah, we could find a table at the little trattoria quite easy back then, when every day would not necessarily be the case.
Yeah. Well,
It was a blast.
so I'm sorry.
Well, I was just gonna say it was a blast, and I love Florence, and but I also love getting to all the little mountain top, villas, and Montesino and Montepulciano and all that fun stuff.
All right. Awesome. So where was the first stop once you decided to move into the wine business? You went through school. What was the first job, so to speak, in the wine business?
Crazy enough, the first job was starting a winery and becoming the winemaker. I literally did not work for anybody else. I went straight from school, and we moved here to Paso. We moved here to Paso Robles because we fell in love with Rhone varieties along the way. Started with California grown and produced Rhone varieties, and of course then eventually the Rhone Valley, which we went to the year prior to planting the estate vineyard here. So I just love the Rhone varieties, and so we were searching for a place for that, and Paso turned out to be the correct, now all these years later, the correct place to pick. It was very up and coming at the time. We were talking before, a lot of people jumped on, but Saxon was just starting to make a name for themselves. Lini Colada was just starting to make a name for themselves, and I felt like I really wanted to be a part of that growth movement of a region. And happily, 19, 20 years now of growing grapes here, we've been a part of that.
Well, today everybody would say, of course, Rhone and Paso makes sense, but back then it was a lot of Zen, right? I mean, it wasn't
Yeah, a lot
wasn't
of
as
Zen,
Rhone dominant as what is today.
That's correct. Yeah, and a lot of people were, just experimenting. And even when we planted our estate here, the first portion of the planting was in 2006, and we did, maybe that's because of my business background, but we diversified like crazy. Yeah, we planted a lot of Rhone stuff, but we planted only a little bit of a lot of different things, a lot of different clones in the case of Syrah, because nobody knew what was going to really work in Paso Robles.
Yeah. So you really were a pioneer in a lot of the Rhone movement for that time.
Yeah, I think
I'll say
we're just
it.
proud to have been a part of it, and hopefully moved that along. There's lots of, I think it's proven that Paso Robles is an amazing place for the Rhone varieties, and we grow most all of them, not every single one of the varieties, but we grow the main ones, and I'm really happy to have proven that this is an amazing place to grow all of the main ones, but Syrah specifically. I mean, we are very well known for our Syrahs.
And for good reason. Do you remember the very first wine that really made a lasting impression on you?
Yeah, believe it or not, I do, and it took me a few years to remember back. But we were in a restaurant in Long Beach back in the day when I was doing the conventions. And there's that mosquito, Aunt Mike. We were at there's a restaurant in Long Beach called 555. It's a steakhouse.
That's still there.
Yeah, many of you still
know it.
And I don't remember if they had a sommelier or was the waiter or somebody recommended it. We were describing what we like, and they recommended a Grenache, and it happened to be from Beckman in Santa Barbara, and that got me off on this crazy path. It's just kind of the way I am. If I find something I like, I'm going to learn about it. I want to know more about it. I want, in this case, want to drink more about it. So every time I went from the Bay Area down to a convention in Southern California, I would stop at various wine shops along the way, trying to find Beckman or other Grenaches. And that just, as many of us know, when we get into wine, it just mushroomed into this craziness of this passionate about wine.
Did you, in your France trip, did I hear you say you stopped at Baroche?
No, that is not one of them we stopped at. No.
Got it.
It had a lot of amazing grenaches though.
No doubt, no doubt. Any that stood out from there?
I can't remember any particular ones by name. Jeunesse was one of the ones that I remember loving their wines a lot.
Got it. And then the name Caliza, a Spanish name, right?
It is, yeah.
Or
We were looking for a name that, having grown up in Hawaii, my chosen name for the winery and the vineyard was Ohana, which is family in Hawaiian. And we actually went to the point of, sorry, this bug is really getting at me. We actually went to the point of trademarking it for a winery name and the like. And lo and behold, of all the places in the world, right here in Paso Robles, there was another family that called their vineyard Ohana Vineyard. And they came to us and they said, it's kind of our family thing. And, we realized early on, Paso Robles is a small little community of very tight-knit people. And we said, all right, we gave up the name, forego our trademark. I mean, we could have fought them and all that good stuff, but that's not who we are. And so we started all over. It's like, we couldn't really find another Hawaiian name that mattered. So I just wanted something that connected us to the land, because from the very beginning, my goal was, and still to this day is, I want to be the farmer and the winemaker. I want to grow the grapes that we're going to make wine with. Now we buy fruit, and I love buying fruit. I love seeing what other farmers can do or other individuals can do with fruit. But that was the thing in the beginning. So I wanted something that connected us to the dirt that we were growing our grapes in. And we grow in a lot, as many of you know, most of you know, the soils of Paso Robles are very high in limestone. And so the name Caliza, meaning limestone in Spanish, was very purposeful. It worked perfectly well for us. And I wanted our official name, our legal name is Caliza Winery, but I wanted a one-word name that we could be known by. And Caliza, that sounded pretty cool. I think it does.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And so on your estate, you grow, tell me if I have this right, Grenache, Primitivo, and that's, I assume, a separate clone or different from Zinfandel, but a cousin, right?
Yes.
Syrah, Viognier, Roussanne, Mourvèdre, Petit Syrah, Mataro, Tannat, Petit Verdot.
And Tempranillo.
And, okay, that was my next question. I don't know how I had that off my list, but if it's with the name Caliza, you almost have to have Tempranillo.
Yeah, we wanted, that was another one where it was like, what can we plant that's different that people don't have a lot of? And there wasn't a lot of Tempranillo planted in 2005 when we were designing the vineyard. So we planted a little bit we only planted a half an acre. So again, because nobody really knew how well it would do. It's amazing. And we love making this Rioja style, a California version of a Rioja style wine. It's a Tempranillo Grenache blend. You mentioned Roussanne. We actually have grown Roussanne all the way up until this year. This year, unfortunately, we had to take that block of that vineyard out because it was diseased. It has that terrible disease, viral disease called red blotch. Red blotch in white wines is still a real thing. And we ended up planting Cabernet Sauvignon because we do a Cabernet Sauvignon Syrah blend called Companion, and we wanted to have estate-grown Cabernet.
Brilliant. So you replace the Roussanne with the Cab.
Yes. So now we only have one white variety growing on. It's currently one white variety. That's the Viognier. But we do make wines with other white varieties, but we just have to purchase those from some.
Do I remember right that Companion was also the first wine that you made?
The first three wines we made were our Azimuth blends, or so-called GSM, which now is typically more Mourvèdre-driven, Mourvèdre, Grenache, Syrah, but still a GSM, and 100% Syrah and Companion. Those are the three we started with. The Syrah is because I wanted to do something like they do in the northern Rhone Valley of France. So I stuck with, let's do the best California version of Syrah we can. I love the Chateauneuf de Pape, Côte de Rhone wine, so let's do one in that elk. And then the companion, because the home property that Pam and I live on came with a Cabernet Sauvignon vineyard. It no longer exists, but we for many years were farming Cabernet Sauvignon at the same time we were developing the property here on Anderson Road. That's the estate, and so we had Cabernet Sauvignon, and it was like, what do we do with this cab? Well, let's try this odd blend, but it's very popular here in Paso Robles, Cabernet Sauvignon and Syrah, and that's what we did. And so those are the three we started with. The following year, we made the first white wine, which is a white blend we call Kissin Cousins. It's the blend of the Viognier Roussanne that we grew on the property. It's still growing the Viognier, and a little bit of Grenache Blanc. Now that wine has those three, and oftentimes a little Picpoul Blanc as well.
Beautiful. I see a lot of Albin listed for your Syrahs. Are those just clones, or are you also getting fruit from him?
No, we grow. One of the 6 clones of Syrah that I selected to grow was one of the Albin selections. So it's they call it. There's an Albin 1 and an Albin 2 clone of Syrah, and we have the Albin 1. So we use that it's one of our mainstay Syrahs that we use in a lot of our blends and our 100% Syrahs.
Got it. The first vintage you planted initially in what, 2005?
We planted in 2006. 2006 was our first vintage.
Okay.
So other than the Cabernet Sauvignon that we were growing then at our home ranch, we had to purchase the fruit for the first couple of years. But we made a pact that I would buy within a mile radius of the ranch, so that when we came back to doing estate wines, they weren't from regions outside of the area. At that time, there was no designation of the Willow Creek appellation, which is the appellation we're in right now. But basically, we stayed within that appellation with the fruit that we acquired. And then 2008, we were able to get a little bit of estate fruit, and 2009, we went majority estate grown fruit. And we have done that ever since. Now, again, we buy Cabernet Sauvignon, we buy a little Grenache Blanc. Sometimes we buy a little, we have a couple of vineyards we really enjoy working with, get a little Grenache. Some of those things that we needed to expand because our wines were getting popular and selling out. So we had to get a little bit more. Now, over the last 3 years, we planted 8 additional acres of more Syrah, more Grenache, and a couple of new varieties, the Petit Verdot specifically on the ranch. So we're trying to expand, and still looking. We'll buy fruit from somebody that's a really fantastic grower as well.
And you're 28 acres in total now for your
28 planted acres. The property is 60 acres.
Yeah.
That map behind me is actually a drawing of the vineyard, but you can see lots of oak trees and stuff there, and we choose to keep those.
Yeah, good benefits from those, I imagine.
Oh, the owls and the hawks and all the predatory birds, and as many of you probably know, we have lots of rodents here. So gophers and squirrels and field mice and all those things, and those birds are excellent at taking care of those. Much better than poison. So we farm organically, so we don't use any commercial fertilizers or herbicides or pesticides or rodicides. None of that stuff is allowed on the property. So the birds are our friends.
Yeah, for sure. Well, what's the most challenging part of making wine?
I think it's just the fact that the most challenging part is like what we're in right now is just this incredibly crunch period where, some years harvest is spread out over a couple of month period, but years like this where it all really piles into a 3 or 4 week, if we're lucky, period. And it's just a lot to do, a lot of details to take care of. And thankfully I have an amazing cellar team that helps me now because there's just so much to do as we've grown. We're still tiny, but but even then, it's more than I can do on my own. When I started, I made all the wines all by myself when we were making, 1,000 cases, 1,200 cases. But, now we're making 3 and 4, a little bit more than 4,000 cases of wine. And it's impossible for me personally. So it's great to have a great cellar team that work hard. But off the top of my head, that's the hardest thing. It's just the crunch.
And the unpredictability of what the weather's going to be late when harvest rolls around, right? Like the difference between 22 and 23 was incredible, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. 22 was sort of stretched out, and we kind of had a halftime and we could just relax, and then we started again. But this year it's just boom, boom, boom. Do we have enough tank space? Where are we, the fact that we grow majority of our own fruit and have our own vineyard, that just adds another whole layer of responsibilities. And I mean, I'm not being boastful or anything, or even complaining, but I was in the vineyard at 3 o'clock this morning, picking fruit with the crew, and, all day in the vineyard and all the fun things we do. That's just what we do at this time of year. But it's, it gets tough. I mean, my head will hit the computer here once you stop talking to me.
Well, I'll be conscious of that in about 15 minutes here. A quick comment on the Syrah. So it feels like a lot of producers are pulling Syrah from down south, but you're really making a name, or have for some time made a big name for the quality Syrah that you're making. And it sounds like it's mostly estate fruit, right? You're not taking anything from Santa Barbara.
All the fruit is, all the Syrah that we make is estate fruit. It's Paso Robles. We're Paso proud, I really want to showcase Paso Robles. These are big and showy wines. And I love wines from the Santa Barbara region. I love the cooler climate characteristics as well, but we're not going to get that here in Paso Robles. So I just embrace where we are and the wines that we make, and just try to make them. One of my Napa winemaker friends calls, our wines unctuous. I like to make these unctuous wines that just, melt in your mouth, so to speak, and have lots of beautiful flavors. And I also like to make wines that are balanced, that have a little bit of a lot of different things, and they don't just smack you upside the head with one thing or the other. So as you're enjoying our wines, and I know many of you have over the years, you just that's really a key thing for me, is that the wines have all the pieces and no one piece is the bully in the sandbox, that they all play together well, and that you got great flavors and great tannins and great acidity and great mid palate fruit flavors and long finish, and all those things are all necessary for a great wine.
Well, that's very well said. I love your description of balance. That's probably the best description I've heard. You don't have a bully in the group. I like it. And unctuous, what a perfect word for your wines too. So we talked about the most challenging part. What do you find to be the most exciting part of making wine?
Well, equally so. Harvest is one of those things. I'm the kind of guy that I would be in the vineyard, amongst the vines every day for every hour if I possibly could, or on a tractor every day, and I can't. And I also love being in the wine. I love the blending. I love the fermentation dynamics. I love making, it's a challenge to make sure that they ferment properly to come up with the flavor profiles that you want, and that they finish and they go dry. In other words, there's no residual sugar. And the challenges of all those are immense. To come out the other end with wines that taste like you'll want to enjoy. But I love those challenges. I mean, I always, I guess that's my thing. I love to be challenged, and I love to, and be able to prove that we can do it. And we have been for many years.
So my next question is a popular question in our group, and as this is being recorded, people can come back and reference this, but we'd like to get from you a pro tip on a way that, from your experience, that people can enjoy wine better, whether it's how they store it, how they consume it, anything in between. Can you share a pro tip on that? Anything in that realm?
Sure. A couple of things. I mean, obviously, we all know about proper storage, and then light intensity and consistent temperatures. I don't necessarily think it has to be super cold or super cool, but as long as it's consistent, because the changes in temperatures are really problematic for longevity. But my tip for you today is don't think you have to age them for too long. Especially with Caliza wines, we craft them so that they are ageable. I mean, wines, you could still drink wines of ours. They're still, Brenda maybe still has some in her cellar. I don't know, but we've been making wine since 2006. If you could find a 2006 wine, it would still be very fresh. I only have a few bottles left, but we try them all the time. But really, I think people should just learn to enjoy wines, a few years after they acquire them, rather than laying them down for long periods of time. Sure, you're going to benefit from longer periods of time. You're going to get a patina on those wines. They're going to evolve. They're going to, that aging process is great. But wines are to be enjoyed. Wines are to be shared. Wines are to be, talked about with friends and family. And you lay a few down, but I think far too many people age wines far too long, and then either get to a point in their lives where they can't enjoy them anymore, or they went over the hill and you're angry with yourself, and I don't want you to do that.
Well, that's a great tip. And it's also a good reason to buy more than one bottle. You can take one right now and then save at least one for later.
I always tell customers you could buy a case, and then you can have, a few a year, and then you can
see how it evolves.
That's just the salesman in me, I guess.
I tend to think more in like 5-year increments right now, just take it as it comes.
Well, speaking of just Caliza wines, if you have the fortitude to lay them down for 5 years, I assure you they'll last much longer, but 5 years is a really good sweet spot. They'll be great.
I don't know, Carl, this 2013 is tasting amazing. Amazing. Yeah.
Which wine is it, Brenda?
It is the Simpatico 2013.
Nice. Very nice. Mike and I did open a 2010 and 2011 different Paso wines yesterday, and it actually still held up well. But yeah. I'm completely with you on this, Carl. I think people sometimes wait way too long. Yeah. And there's no point in leaving a bunch of wine in your cellar. Drink away you can.
I'm actually doing my best. I'm trying to drink as much as possible.
I don't want my wine. I don't want my wine to go into probate.
Right. Exactly.
I know my kids already have a lottery process going on for my wine. This is
yeah.
So, Carl, can you walk us through the current lineup? And by the way, you mentioned you're having a 21 now that has not been released yet, but and I don't know if I've seen scores in your 21s, but I'm super excited as good vintage as 21 was to see your 21 lineup.
The 21 wines they're amazing, but no, they're not been released. The current lineup right now, well, the main wines that we make are the ones I mentioned earlier, the three. We started with the Azimuth blend, the GSM blend, the 100% Syrah, the Estate Syrah, the companion blend, the Simpatico, which is what Brenda's drinking, and then we also you mentioned we grow Primitivo, so we do an Estate Primitivo, so the Italian clone of the Zinfandel, and then we also grow. I missed this when you were talking earlier, Jason. We grow Petite Syrah. Maybe I don't think you said that. But we do a Petite Syrah driven wine called Cohort. It's often between 3 and 5 different varieties blended together, but Petite Syrah being the lead player. It's usually Petite Syrah, Syrah, Grenache, or Mourvèdre. We do that, and then nowadays we do 100% Grenache. Most times we do 100% Mourvèdre. And now we're making reserve Syrahs on good years.
And getting, I know Mike referenced this at the start of the call, but a lot of props on that reserve Syrah.
Yeah, it's it's amazing for sure. I'm proud of it, and the wine writers are knocking it out of the park. And so yeah, the only reason I have the 21 here is because I had a wine writer in a couple days ago, and I saved the bottle to try it a couple days later. So the current vintage is 2020. This fall we just released the 2020 Syrah, the 2020 Companion, the 2019 cohort. We always bottle age that cohort 1 extra year, so it's always a vintage behind. And we also do, I mentioned the Kissing Cousins blend is the white blend. On good years, we make 100% Viognier. We also do white. If you like Roussan, I'm sad we don't have it anymore, but we do have it in bottles. We do 100% Roussan that we barrel age for 2.5 years, the 30 months in barrels, and then bottle age it for another year or two before we release it. So the current release that just came out this fall, white wine, is a 2018 Roussan, and it is amazing, golden, silky, just really special. I'm looking forward to that as one of the wines on the table for Thanksgiving. And most of the wines aren't Caliza, but that one will be there.
I think it's worth being said that you're doing all the work for us, so that when you release the wine, it is ready to drink or close to ready to drink, right? And it's not cheap for a winemaker to keep aged wine on the property, right?
Yeah, no, it costs us because we actually have to store it. Excuse me, we have to store it off-site, so we pay for storage. But it's been my rule from the beginning, that our rule of thumb, that from the beginning, that I want to release the wine when they're enjoyable, not say to you, hey, this wine's really going to taste great in a year or two. But please buy it now. I feel really strongly about that. I also think it's part of our reputation. If you're tasting a wine and you're not enjoying it because it's too tannic or too tight or too bombastic, that doesn't do my brand any good if you're not sure you really like it.
Well, I just want to say that we've always bought like enough to drink the current wine and put some away so we can see what it tastes like after we've aged it, and never been disappointed either avenue. It's just like fantastic every single time.
That's the way to do it.
Hey, Carl, we're getting a little close to 7. Can we take a little bit more time? You got 10 more minutes?
I absolutely do, yes.
Okay. Okay, so, go ahead, Jason.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. I just got one more question, and then we can open it up to the group. And then actually, I just want to give you the opportunity to talk a little bit about the wine club.
Yeah, thank you. We interestingly enough, it took us a few years before we started a wine club. Maybe that's just my humble nature. I was like, do people really want to be in a wine club? So I think we went for 3 years without a wine club. We opened up, by the way, we're having our 15th anniversary of the opening of our tasting room this month. So this will be 15 years in November that we've been open in the tasting room, which is where I'm sitting.
Congratulations.
So super proud of that. We've done well, and people love our environment here. If you haven't been, please come. It's very small and quaint. There's no pomp and circumstance here. We want you to enjoy the wines. We want to educate you about our wines, or Paso Robles wines. But anyway, when we finally started a club, I don't know, a few years later, it must have been like 2010 or 20. It must have been 2010. We started small, but now we have 3 different club options. Our top tier club is a club we call the Doce Club, Spanish for 12, and you get 12 bottles twice a year. The cool thing about that club is, number one, you get to select the wines from an allocated list that you want. So if you're a Syrah fan, you just get 12 bottles of Syrah. Or you can pick and choose for the wines that are released in that outcome. Then we have the next tier down is called the Alta Club, and the Alta Club is as well a member select club. So you get to select the wines, the 6 bottles of wine that you want in your club. And both of those clubs have a 20% discount for club wines and any other wines you buy throughout the year. And then thirdly, we have a Vista Club, sort of our starter pack. It's a 4-pack club. You can choose to be all reds or a combination of reds and whites. And that's a 15% discounted club. We feel strongly that those discounts are necessary and in essence a reward for you being loyal customers and long-term customers. And I'm really proud to say that our club has very little turnover. We just consistently grow because people, yes, there's some attrition. That's just life, but for the most part, people want to stick with us for long periods of time because they enjoy the wine, they want to have the wine, and we do a lot of things specifically for our club members. They always get first crack at a lot of the different things we're doing.
Can I say
thank you. So,
something quick?
yeah, Mike, go ahead.
Carl, when we spoke a few weeks ago, I was wondering if you if you want to book another segment, that's fine. But we were talking about end of days. Do you want to talk about that at all?
Yeah, no, thank you for that. So many people do, and many people don't know that about 5-6 years ago, we started another line of wine under the Caliza umbrella. The goal being, and I personally believe in this, is the reason we did it, was that we need to have wines, we need to have special wines in our lives, but we need to have wines that are really rock solid good that we can enjoy every day of the week. Because I'm not the kind of guy that's going to go open a $65, $75, $100 bottle of wine on an every day of the week or on a Tuesday or Wednesday, Thursday, but I really want a great glass of wine for dinner. So the goal with our end of the day series of wines is just that. We want to make solid wines. The same team makes the wines. I oversee the winemaking on the end of the day wines, and the rest of our cellar team is equally involved in making end of the day wines. We just make these from fruit that we buy from other growers. We like to partner up with really other small growers, actually even smaller than we are, and help them grow better grapes, and then we in turn buy their fruit to make wines. And their goal right now is $25 to $35 bottles of wine. So you can get a smoking good a Rhone red blend from us, or a Cabernet Sauvignon, or a Tempranillo, or we do a blend called ZM Cuvée, which is a Zinfandel Mourvedre blend. Our whites are, we do an Albarino. It's a beautiful fresh white wine. This year for the first time we're doing a Chardonnay, so we're going to have an end of the day Chardonnay, which will be kind of fun. Again, this is with Paso Robles fruit, so sort of fun thing we do. We have a separate club for that, and it's an allocation of wine 4 times a year. And I could get to you if you want. You message me or reach out to me. I can get you that, or you can go to. There's a separate website for the end of the day wines. It's simply endofthedaywines.com or calizawinery.com for the estate wines.
So do you have a tasting room for that in tin, or?
We do have a tasting. We have a tasting room, but it's really the cellar, and it's in the middle of the cellar. So this time of year, it gets squeezed down to a little corner. But with weather like we've been having, it's been beautiful. We actually do a lot of outdoor tasting with umbrella tables and fun stuff like that. But people really enjoy it because at the end of the day tasting room, you basically get to be in the cellar. You get to be a part of the cellar. You sometimes see a lot of the winery activity going on, and it's really an opportunity for us to educate people about wine and about that process and bring people up. And we're really, I'm assuming that everybody, on the call and on the Zoom tonight, are significantly into wine. But there's a lot of people that we feel like, younger, or people that are just like me when I first got into wine, didn't really know a lot about wine, but wanted to know about a wine. And we have staff that will help people understand wine and not be intimidated by wine. And that's what we do, both at Caliza, but specifically at the end of the day. And for those of you who've been to Tin City, you know, there's just a lot of people walking around looking for a good time and want to try to, you know, trying to learn something. And Tin City is a great place for our end of the day series because
Really good.
it's approachable, it's unpretentious. Well, Caliza's not either, but nonetheless, you know, it's just like, come on in, you can afford this and enjoy it.
Nice.
Thanks for asking about it. Yeah, two different lines of wine still under the Caliza umbrella.
Yeah. Continue Mike's question. It's kind of it may be a weird one. I noticed because I've been passing and tasting at end of days and as well as Caliza. I noticed that there is a much higher chance to see you at the end of days wine than at Caliza. Why is that?
It's a lot to do with the fact that that's where the cellar is, and there's probably a lot of winery work to do. But probably the truth of the matter is that we're really trying to make that because end of the day, tasting room is only we only opened up right after after COVID openings, so we're still just trying to get people in there. I know I've seen you in there a few times. I appreciate you've come and just sat with me.
Yep.
When we were getting staff organized and we were getting people, I was oftentimes the one there that was covering that tasting room. Now we have a staff of really talented people. You'll still see me float in and out because that's the cellar. I'm coming to do something or check on some wine or something of that nature. But I love being here at the Caliza tasting room as well. I love talking about our wine. That's why we've gone over the hour. Sorry about that.
Oh, well,
My other question is,
we're
sorry.
more concerned about your time.
I'm good.
Yeah. My other question is, you mentioned Petit Verdot a couple of times. What do you do with Petit Verdot?
So the vineyard that we currently buy our Cabernet from now that we no longer have haven't had for a few years, our Cabernet vineyard grows Petit Verdot. So we've been acquiring the Petit Verdot, and that goes in the companion blend in very small percentage. So 5, 6, 7, 10% of Petit Verdot. So when we had the opportunity to plant a new vineyard here, new section of our vineyard here, I decided to plant a little bit of Petit Verdot to have for that companion blend.
Thanks.
Well, Laura asked which varietals or clones didn't work out from the first plantings.
Well, believe it or not, we're thrilled with all of them. The only one that didn't work out, but it took 15 years to us to realize it was the Rousson was virus. But I really thought that when we planted 6 different clones of Syrah that there will be ones that I didn't, in the end, didn't like. The largest block is 2 acres, and I figure I could. My wife came into this not with a lot of money, but with our retirement funds and the like. So we planted small little pieces so that if we had to replace something, but to this day we haven't replaced any of the red varieties that we planted, and now have planted more of the ones we think are really favorable. So I do have favorites of the clones of Syrahs, but the interesting thing is that every year is a little bit different, and every growing season is a little different. And some of them shine more one year and not so much the next year. So it would be silly not to have them all because you never know which year they're going to shine. And I just wish from the beginning we had more Mourvedre, more Grenache, but we now do have we have two new plantings of Mourvedre. We actually have Mourvedre and Mataro, so same basic variety, just different approach and name. And then we have a new block of Grenache as well. The only other thing we added this in the newest planting was a tiny little piece of Tannat, and we'll just use that as a blender somewhere. I'm not exactly sure. This year we didn't get very much of it. Our first year we got some fruit from it, but in the future, but who knows? I vision it being a blending variety versus a single variety. I think it's just too tannic to be a single varietal, but you never know.
Yeah, you never know.
Laura Calvert, she has another question. Yeah, go ahead and unmute. Go ahead.
Sorry.
Laura.
I just thank you for that, because when you were talking earlier, I was wondering whether more things didn't work out, and I am hearing this, that the 2018 Rousson that I've got here in my house or shipping, I'm not sure which, might be the end of that, right? That 100%.
There's actually a 2019 and a 2021 still in barrel. So there's
Okay.
more to come. But that 2017, the last vintage, and now the 2018, I think are the two best we've ever done. So enjoy. And we don't do a lot of that. There's only a couple of barrels worth, but it's a special wine.
I mean, we joined your club for your reds, and I love your reds, and we do. But the pink, the Kissing Cousins, we did the sampling pack. I love your guys' tasting pack that you guys have available. We opened those last Thursday with a friend who was here, and yeah, that Roussan's big. That 18 Roussan is really big.
It's big and rich. Yeah, it's a food wine for sure.
Yeah, it was interesting. But and I agree with, you know, Mike and everybody else that even tonight when I was picking out what am I opening up on a Thursday night to just sit here, right?
Right.
I didn't want to open my library stuff. I have not been a member as long as Brenda has. But I have been buying enough to be able to hold it down because we tasted the 19 regular Syrah with the reserve Syrah last Thursday side by side because I hadn't done that yet.
Good.
And very much different. Yeah, the reserve just is extra smooth, extra special, but the straight 19 Syrah, you did a great job on it too. I mean, I never hesitate to open that.
2019 was a really special vintage, so yeah, they're great, and it's to the point of the estate Syrah and the reserve Syrah. They need to be different. We make sure that they're Syrah from the estate, but they're when they can't be the same. It wouldn't be fair.
Thank you, and I'll let other people ask questions.
Anybody else have questions? Anybody else got anything? Well, I guess we should let Carl go back to doing what he does best. And
Sleep.
the reason why we buy his wine, he has to get to work.
I tell you what I have to do. I have to go back out to the vineyard and get ready for the harvest tomorrow. I have to take some bins to a vineyard that we're buying some fruit from tomorrow and drop those bins off. It's dark outside now. And then I have to go back to the winery for a little bit of things to do. So I got a bit to do, but it's been thrilling and great to spend time with all of you, I think. Thank you for this.
We thank you.
One question, Carl,
taking the time.
before you go is what do you still have left to harvest? What are you doing with your harvest? Where are you?
After today, we have a tiny little bit of Syrah left to pick. It's in one of the lower lying areas, so it wasn't as ripe. And then we have the Mataro and the Mourvedre, and both in the Mourvedre family. Those are always the last thing we harvest, and I would imagine late next week or the week after we will get those and be done. I imagine the weather, it's been frosty the last couple of mornings, so I'm not sure how much longer the vines have to have leaves on them. So we'll get that soon.
Okay. Very good.
I have one question though. So because of what I picked up while I was there with many winemakers, like they're worried about the frost coming in. So you pull it down earlier than you normally would. How do you work with that if you're looking for a higher bricks level, but you didn't get there? How do you work with that?
Yeah, I mean, there's not, if you don't get the physiological ripeness that you want, it's really very difficult. So that's why I shouldn't say most winemakers, but many winemakers like me will throw the dice and let it ride and just see how it goes. Or as I have done in years past, like when Mourvedre takes a little while longer, I might pick half of it and then let the other half go and just hedge my bet that, and then typically that works out. Yeah, there's been some pretty bad frost around here. We fortunately, between just good luck and our frost fan, have been able to skirt any significant damage. But if you drive around today, I mean, you were here over the weekend, Mike, But since then, you will really see some vineyards that are just totally fried, all brown leaves, because it's been extremely cold. But that's, that's farming, as they say, and that's what we deal with. We just have to balance it out all year long. I've been saying to the vineyard team that we have to make sure we only leave just enough crop. We don't want to be greedy, because we are going to run up against them not being ripe later in the year. And so that's a balance. Everything's a balance to make sure we didn't leave too much crop that we couldn't ripen it. And we did a really good job of that. Everything's getting ripe.
Excellent. I learned, yeah, that was fascinating. Okay, everybody, let's let Carl go. I will close it off. I just want to close the show off with saying that our next event is December 7th. We are, Jason and I are proud to say we have also, Carl is somebody we wanted on for a long time. We also have Russell Fromm and Valia Fromm from Herman's Story and Desperada. December 7th. It'll be fun.
That will be fun.
Yeah.
Good
It will be
characters.
fun. Yeah, really. No, we're looking
Hey,
forward.
Carl, real quick, I just want to thank you for your time. I know it's a super
Yeah.
busy time for you right now, and Mike and I were nervous about getting anybody on during harvest, and just grateful for you to make the time. Really appreciate
It's
it.
my pleasure. I really appreciate the opportunity. Thank you. And thanks for all of you listening.
Yeah, when we booked it, I didn't expect you guys to be working so hard in November.
I didn't think so either, but so be it.
But last year we had guests booked in August, and they were hustling because of the heat. So it was a different season. Anyway, thank you so much, Carl, and thank you to everybody that joined us tonight. Really appreciate it.
Cheers, y'all.
Thank
Cheers.
See you, Carl.
you.
Take care. See you soon.